Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Glad you're here. Glad the week is over. I need a break. Anybody here? Glad it's Shabbat? Okay, good. See, this is good. I like this. Only 3 people didn't raise their hand. So I don't know what their secret is, but that's... I guess so. Yeah, sorry. Okay, maybe we should come up with something different other than raising hands. You're right. Sorry. I am very, very thankful for it to be Shabbat, and really nice to be with you here today. People we don't get to see very often, people we get to see, but it's really, really nice to be together. And we're celebrating other things today other than Shabbat. We are celebrating birthdays and anniversaries, including the birthday of the trees, or the anniversary of the trees. It depends on what you call it. The trees celebrated their birthday this past weekend, but as often happens when you're young, you can't, you just keep celebrating for many days. So the trees told me that their birthday was Wednesday, but they wanted to celebrate with us this Shabbat. This is when they wanted their party. So some of the service we're going to do tonight is BiShvat things for the service. And you saw we decorated with our special magical BiShvat branches, which I will tell you, I've moved them around a bunch already tonight because I like those things. I bought them once when they were unique, and now lots of places have them. But I tried to put them here so that they were part of our flower arrangement, but the camera was going crazy. I was like, so I didn't do that. So they're over there, and you can appreciate our lovely BiShvat branches and celebrate. But we're also celebrating everyone's birthdays and anniversaries in February today. So I look forward to that and try to get done so we can start our Shabbat sooner. I'm ready. It's dark enough yet? It's dark enough. Mm-hmm. So before we begin, I want to give you another idea about what it is that we are doing in time and space here. BiShvat, yes, but the Torah portion this weekend is the portion called Yitro, which is one of the few, and it's always a surprise to us. It always drives the rabbis a little bit crazy when you have a Torah portion named after somebody who's not Jewish. It's kind of fun. There aren't very many at all that have names of people who are Jewish, but this is one that's named after someone who's not Jewish. And it may make some of you happy to know that it's the name of a father-in-law. I mean, there are no Torah portions named after mother-in-laws. I'm not sure why. But this one is named after a father-in-law. It has a special place in my family's heart because it was Max's bar mitzvah portion. And as you know, he focused on the father-in-law part. He focused on the relationship and said, Moses seemed very overworked every day. And his father-in-law said, you need to do things differently. Lots of people can help. Find the people who can help and let them do things. Divvy out your responsibilities. There are certain things that you need to do because you have a connection with God that nobody else does, but everybody else can do other things. But it also happens to be the Torah portion when we get to hear for the first time and see and experience the Decalogue. We're at Sinai. We're at the foot of Sinai, and Moses receives the Decalogue, these tablets. And it's an incredibly powerful moment. So one of the things I want you to think about, but I'm not planning on talking about much more tonight. This is my commercial for tomorrow's Torah study. We know that at that moment, the words that God said were so powerful that you could see the sound. And we know that the words were so powerful that we said, Moses, we can't take it. It's too much for us. We have an idea. You go to God and you let God talk to you, and then you tell us what God said. And that troubles me a little bit. I know that in some sense, in context, we're supposed to understand that God is that awesome, and we were not. And we were not sufficient to be able to understand it. But that really bugs me, I'm sorry to say, not because I don't believe that that's what happened, I do. But often, and even in those commandments, even in the things that God gave us, part of it is that we can hear God. So how is it possible that we can't hear God and we can hear God? And that troubles me. So we'll talk about it tomorrow, but one of the things I want you to think about, in case you're not coming tomorrow, is when we listen to these stories, I don't know about you, but I always kind of personalize it. What lesson am I learning about for me in this story? And so up until now, I always thought about myself as being one of the children of Israel, trying to hear this awesome sound, the words, arguably the most awesome moment in all of history, the most powerful words in all of history, and it was too powerful for me to hear. And how I feel about knowing that those words were too powerful for me to hear. But I have to take them to heart anyway. But maybe it's not about me as a person who is part of the children of Israel. Maybe it's a story about Moses. Why we followed Moses for 40 years. Because Moses and God could communicate. And that was a very powerful thing. And we still didn't have the skills. We still have that slave mentality. And we couldn't communicate directly with God like that, at least for things this big. And so it told us who Moses is. So when we needed things, we would go to Moses. Or maybe it tells us about God and how awesome God is. So I would be curious to hear what you have to say, and maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow, maybe not. But now, part of the awesomeness of what God was and is also one of the commandments that we need to start right away, and that is Shabbat. Shabbat is one of the commandments, believe it or not. About a week or two ago, we read that when you do not keep Shabbat, the penalty is death. Did you know that? For not keeping Shabbat. And somebody in their inimitable style, I get this possibly once a week, I get one of these, oh, there's your loving God, ha ha. So how do you explain this? How could death come to people? And I said, you try never taking a break and see where that gets you. And that's important. So death is one of the commandments Shabbat is one of the commandments that has a death penalty. You remember what the other one is? Not of the top 10. Nope, it doesn't say that. In the top 10 it says adultery is the other one that has a murder, that has a death penalty to it. On the flip side, honoring your father and mother has a life sentence to it, which means you get to live, not that you get to live as a punishment. So that's a life sentence. I don't know what else to call it. I thought the gong was back. Sorry. Rabbi, it's time. I heard the gong. So I need you to take a deep breath and let it out. Okay, don't take a deep breath, but I need another one. And let it out. Well, some people are sitting there going, that's okay. I'm telling you, you need a break. And God's telling you, you need a break. If you can't hear God, listen. And at this point, we will be turning to what page did I tell you? 82. 82. We are turning to page 82 as we invite Buddy and Sue to help us bless the candles and the wine. And as is our tradition, please rise. If you're physically comfortable standing up and sitting down and standing up and sitting down. And if not, please stay seated. And you will be standing with us in spirit. And you may read into here, please.
These lights are only flickering flames, yet flames illumine our uncertain steps. Flames remind us of Sabbath long past and of their beauty that delighted the hearts. May they inspire us to work for the great Sabbath of peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with your mitzvot and command us to kindle the Sabbath lights.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We continue on pages 167 and 166. Or maybe just 166, I don't know. Whatever page he wants to do. 166.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam b'rei haggah.
Amen.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for you caused bread to come.
You're reading the wrong Hebrew.
No,
Start from up here. You started too low. Start higher.
we praise you, O eternal God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine.
Amen.
Amen. We praise you, O eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You call us to holiness with the mitzvah of the Sabbath, the sign of your love, a reminder of your creative work and of your liberation of Egyptian bondage, our days of days. On Sabbath especially, we hearken to your call to serve you, holy people. We praise you, O God, the holiness of Sabbath.
Amen.
Amen.
L'chaim. There was enough to share, though. That was really sweet. You may be seated if you say Shabbat Shalom to someone
BiShvat.
sitting near you. Shabbat Shalom to someone you didn't come in with. Make sure you say Shabbat Shalom to somebody new, somebody else. We continue back at the bottom of page 83. And I want you to keep the trees in mind when you pray today. There are days when we seek material things and measure failure by what we do not own.
To share.
There are days when we exploit nature with reckless greed.
On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation.
There are days when we think only of ourselves.
On Shabbat, we open our hearts to the needs of others.
Therefore, we welcome Shabbat.
Day of rest, day of joy, day of peace.
And we welcome the angels that accompany us on Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mochem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nidei Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedechem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The synagogue is the sanctuary of Israel. Born of our longing for the living God, it has been to Israel throughout our long wanderings a visible token of the presence of God in our people's midst. Its beauty is the beauty of holiness. Steadfast it has stood as the champion of justice, mercy, and peace.
Its truths are true for all people. Its love is a love for all people.
Its
Its
God is the God of all people.
As it has been said, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples.
Let all the family of Israel, all who hunger for righteousness, all who seek the eternal, find God here, and here find life. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divrach chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei b'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala, ba'agala, uvizman kariv, v'meru, amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'alam u'almei almaya, yitbarach, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpahar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yit'aleh, v'yithalal, shemeh dukudisha, brichu, le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma, v'yimeru, amen. Baruch hu et Adonai, hamevorach, Baruch Adonai, hamevorach, le'olam va'ed. Oh God, how can we know you? Where can we find you? You are as close to us as breathing, yet you are farther than the farthermost star. You are as mysterious as the vast solitudes of night, yet as familiar to us as the light of the sun. To Moses you said, "You cannot see my face, but I will make all my goodness pass before you." Even so does your goodness pass before us, in the realm of nature and in the joys and sorrows of life.
When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives, and we can begin to change the world. And then you live within our hearts, and we, through righteousness, behold your presence. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Amen.
Grayson, you want to come and help me? Mackenzie, do you want to come and help me? Wow. Officially, they don't have to do this anymore after their Benot Mitzvah, after they became Bat Mitzvah, but they love doing this, so I like when they do it for us. We're going to chant on page 88. Ready? Go.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Nice job, ladies. You shall love your eternal God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your being.
Set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be symbols before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you consecrate yourselves to your God. I am your eternal God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am your eternal God.
I, the Eternal One, have called you to righteousness and taken you by the hand and kept you. I have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations.
We are Israel, witness to the covenant between God and God's children.
This is the covenant I make with Israel. I will place my Torah in your midst and write it upon your hearts. I will be your God, and you shall be my people.
We are Israel. Our Torah forbids the worship of race or nation, possessions or power.
You who worship gods that cannot save you, hear the words of the Eternal One. I am God, there is none else.
We are Israel. Our prophets proclaimed an exalted vision for the world.
Hate evil and love what is good. Let justice well up as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream.
We are Israel, schooled in the suffering of the oppressed.
You shall not oppress your neighbors nor rob them.
You shall not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds.
We are Israel, taught to beat swords into plowshares, commanded to pursue peace.
Violence shall no longer be heard in your land, desolation and destruction within your borders. All your children will be taught of your God, and great shall be the peace of your children.
We are Israel, O God, when we are witnesses to your love and messengers of your truth.
You are my witnesses, says the Eternal One, and my servant whom I have chosen. Know me, therefore, and put your trust in me.
We are Israel, O God, when we proclaim you, God our Redeemer, as did our ancestors on the shores of the Red Sea.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot oseh fele, nora tehilot oseh fele, malechutecha rahuvanecha bokeh ayam lifnei Moshe zeli anu ve'ameru Adonai imloch Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. May we lie down this night in peace and rise up to life renewed. O God, spread over us your shelter of peace, of quiet and calm, and bless us with rest. And let a time come when morning will bring no word of war or famine or anguish, a time of happiness, of contentment and rest. Baruch atah Adonai, Hapores Sukkot Shalom, Aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. We give thanks for the night and its rest and the promise of peace for all the world. Vishameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. וישמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וישמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. וישמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Please rise for the tefillah, which begins on page 93. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואמהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. I'm going to have you be seated now, because I'm going to read to you any alternate Shmona Esrei, 18 benedictions, which is the section of the service we're in right now. I thought about, in the past, we have sometimes used this book for Tu BiShvat, Shabbat, but this is really, 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 really geared towards little children, and some of it I didn't want to do with grown-ups. But this is a very, very powerful 18 benediction alternative, and I wanted to share this with you. You are strong when you take your grief and teach it to smile. You are brave when you overcome your fear and help others do the same. You are happy when you see a flower and give it your blessing. You are loving when your own pain does not blind you to the pain of others. You are wise when you know the limits of your wisdom. You are true when you admit there are times you fool yourselves. You are alive when tomorrow's hope means more to you than yesterday's mistake. You are growing when you know what you are, but not what you will come to be. You are free when you are in control of yourself and do not wish to control others. You are honorable when you find your honor is to honor others. You are generous when you can take as sweetly as you give. You are humble when you do not know how humble you are. You are thoughtful when you see me just as I am and treat me better than I am. You are merciful when you forgive in others the faults you condemn in yourself. You are beautiful when you don't need a mirror to tell you. You are rich when you never need more than you have. You are what you are, and that is enough for anyone to be loved. I believe that that is a Chaim Stern original. And now we continue on page 96, because the end of the tefillah, the Shmona Esrei, is always a prayer about peace. Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lekol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'necha levarech et Amcha Yisrael v'chol ed uv'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim.
we think of peace, it reminds me about how scary the world is now. And I give you this poem before we begin our silent prayer. The leafy olive tree, branches gnarled and worn, in the middle of its trunk, a hole deep and wide, at least 4 kids could sit inside. This leafy olive tree, ancient as our people, 3,000 years or so, Israel and the olive tree, both of them survive. God's blessings are alive. We take a moment to pray silently.
Adonai Tzuri Vegoali.
Amen. Virginia, I forget to tell you how much I love your voice. I love listening to you sing. We now turn our prayers and our hearts to those who are ill or recuperating as we turn to the inside back cover of the prayer book. Included in our prayers today for healing are Carl Baggy, Carrie Bollinger, Val Gold, Lemuel Houston, Susan Israel, Sister Mary Joan, Babette Kamens, Bernard Lobel, Ted Mandel, Jim Marler, Jada Wynn, Justin Rutkowski, Joanne Smith, and Stephen Zelanka. If you have other names that you'd like us to include in our hearts and our prayers, please call them out.
Linda and Roy Harper.
For all these names, for the names we choose to hold in our hearts and not say out loud, we pray together. O God, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers with the prayers of all who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you have placed within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and to their dear ones. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs.
Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim.
We praise you, eternal God, the source of healing and health. And we add, Mishaberach Avotenu ve'imotenu, may the one who blessed and protected our ancestors guard all those whom we have entrusted with the responsibility of defending our freedom and protecting us. In this country, in the land of Israel, and everywhere they have been called to serve, may they return home safely. And let us say,
Amen.
all right, I know we want to get to birthday things, but I wanted to talk a little bit about what happens when we stand at Sinai and what happened to that people who left Egypt and are now in this most awesome moment. And their lives have changed so radically from what they knew. It had been over 400 years of them living the same way. And as you know, change is sometimes difficult. Sometimes it's hard for us to realize that we need to make a change. This change was not necessarily something that they took on upon themselves. This was kind of thrust on them. But the reality is that change happens all the time. We don't get to stay the same, ever. We're different every day. I was trying to see how change is similar to the life of a tree. We have this magnificent tree outside our window. Helene and I walk past it every day. I think that I have taken like 1 million pictures of that tree, because every day it's something different. And yet it's the same tree. I love that about life. As we're here today, celebrating some people's birthdays and anniversaries. So as we celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, we know that we're the same person in many ways that we were even when we were 10 and counting, 10 and a half and counting. We're the same person as we were back then. And yet, in many ways, we've changed. I hope that the good stuff is still the same good stuff. My family right now is going through a change. It's one of these things where we've been talking about it and getting ready, and I think it looks like it's finally going to happen. But I think that the renovation on the house is starting this week. So we have spent this past week, we didn't anticipate that we were going to be doing this, but this week we wound up moving out of our house and moving into a house across the street. And I have bruises up and down my body to prove it. It's and it's been an incredible journey to just get to where we are right now. My kids, Max was 1.5 when we moved from Lexington, Kentucky to here. When I was young, I moved, felt like all the time. I moved many, 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 many times. And my kids have never really experienced it. Ron was born in that house. And nothing is going to be the same for them in some ways, which is good, because they're at a stage in their lives where things have to change. And they've been troopers. But I think about that. And I'm not sure exactly why it took so long to do this, because a house is just a house. But I'm very, very thankful that this is happening. I appreciate everybody's input, anybody who has advice about what you've been through already. And you know, coincidentally, so just about everything, it took us just a few days, but just about everything is moved out of the old house. And today, when we were shopping for things like, I got those things you stick on the bottom of your bathtub so you don't fall, because Max fell yesterday in the bathtub. So I got some anti-slippery things. And I bump into some people from the Jewish community who said, oh, you needed a house to stay in? Why didn't you stay in my house? Because we're not going to be here for the season. And they thought of 2 or 3 other people that, you know, now you tell me. So I talked to my kids today, like, would you want to change again? Now that you know how easy it is to do, because we've done this in just a few days, and we're not sure that we want to change. Change is a hard thing to do, but we change all the time. So back to my tree and how the tree changes, I thought about that. As we're aging, there are lots of things that change, but I love how a tree changes. When a tree grows, not only does it grow wider, which some of us do as we get older, but the branches spread out farther, and I love that. And usually there are even more leaves, which I love, the colorful part, but in order for that to happen, the roots grow even deeper, and the roots grow even bigger. And so sometimes that's a very powerful way of looking at things. Staying in some ways where you were is a really important part of changing to new things. I like that. What kind of changes do we have in our week, Mr. President? Would you come tell us about our... I know we changed the email of everything that was going on at least 3 times this week.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Shabbat Shalom, y'all.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Want to thank Sue and Buddy for being our blessers for this evening. And Mazel Tov to everyone with birthdays and anniversaries this month. Tomorrow from 9 to 9:30, we'll have Tot Shabbat, children of all ages. We'll have a fun service that takes place all over the sanctuary. The Jewish War Veterans Post here is having a big mitzvah project for March. They plan to hand out food and goodies to local veterans to honor Purim. Even though most veterans are not Jewish, it's still a mitzvah for us to spread the joy of the holiday. Please come this Sunday, February the 8th at 2 p.m. in the parlor to help plan for this and all future programs, and not all, but other future programs. Sunday evening also on February the 8th, Connor Brown, thank you. You're going to have at 6 p.m. the Jewish young adult, young professional group will meet here for a wine and cheese and fruit tasting program. Next Tuesday evening, February the 10th at 7 p.m., the People of the Book Club will discuss in the courtyard of the Kabbalist. How do you say that? Welcome to join in the discussion if you did not read the book. Also, on Thursday, we have Thursday night, there's 7 p.m. There'll be the first meeting of the Chai Mitzvah group. Helene will tell you more about that, and if you want to join the group, have not made reservations, talk to Helene, please. The next Friday night, February the 20th and 21st, Sabbath services and Torah study will be led by Abby Kolonsky, our ISJL Education Fellow. Please join her here.
That's not next Friday, please.
No, it's not next.
weeks.
It's
2
2
weeks.
weeks,
Okay.
okay. Okay. February 20th and 21st. Wow. Okay, and so that'll be happening then. And then also there's a lot of other things happening. Please, the rabbi will be out of town that weekend, but she'll be back Sunday, February 22nd, 2 p.m. to lead an adult education class about Jewish calendar, holidays, and life cycle events. Also, it was a mistake in the bulletin. Bella Muslow's bat mitzvah will be on March the 14th rather than February 14th, and so be aware of that. Donations were made to B'nai Zion for pulpit flowers in loving memory of Benny Goldstein by Sue and David Rubenstein, and in memory of Morris Hirsch by Rochelle Golshaw.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The bulletin was right, but the calendar got anxious. You know, it's really hard to write your bulletin because by the time you're working on the bulletin, you feel like February is already over, and February hasn't even begun yet. So we thought it was March on the calendar, but it wasn't March yet. Yay, we got another month in there. Now, at this time, I would like to invite 4 people to come and help me hold polls, and everyone with birthdays or anniversaries, that means you, Francine. I don't know who else has birthdays and anniversaries. I mean, I do. I have the list here. You want me to call out the names, but I see Ruthie is not here. Oh, Ruthie is here. Yay! She's sitting at the end. And Francine and Helene and Bill. We need 4 people. Hold on. Thank you. You get under. Everybody's Yikes, I take out the book. Sorry, I'm so excited about this. And it's the new book. I know what page, you know, in the old book, the page for the birthday is 1, 2, 3. It's easy to remember, but now it's 140. That's not as easy to remember. God of days and years, author of life, our times are in your hand. We thank you for the blessing of life and all that enriches our lives. We gather today in special thankfulness to share in the happiness of our friends here with birthdays and anniversaries. Be with them always as the joy of their lives. May they be blessed with health and happiness and with the strength to overcome sickness and sorrow. May we have the joy of coming together for many more years, united by mutual reverence and love. Then will our lives be filled with abundance of blessing. And we say together, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehecheanu, v'kiyamanu, v'higianu, lazman hazeh. Amen. Mazel tov, everybody. We'll keep celebrating. Ruthie celebrated yesterday, birthday. Happy birthday. We celebrated Betty Levy's birthday this week, 93 Kanahara years. Awesome. Well, guess who gets to come up and help me open up the ark? Would you ladies like to come help me open the ark again? Anyone who's under the age of 14 will do this time instead. Everyone else, please turn to page 148. I could pick on those of you who are new and are coming from out of town, but I didn't. Page 148, please rise as the ark is open for the Aleinu.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
And on the facing page we sing, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד. When the ark is closed, you may be seated. Our tree of life. Happy birthday, tree. We continue on page 151. I am very grateful to be able to report that we had no military casualties again this week. I don't want to count how many weeks that is, but I think you know it's more than a month of weeks where we've had no American military casualties. And it makes my heart filled. It's such an incredible feeling to know that we're safe and being protected. But I also, before we get to the memorial part, I don't know if you all received the notice that Pat Brooks' son, Donald, passed away this morning. It was a heart attack. I don't know if you remember, he'd had transplants and he'd been suffering. And Pat called me this morning, and she was heading to South Texas, but she wanted me to thank you all very much because we did a lot of praying for him over the years as he was ill and recuperating, and she just wanted to share it with the congregational family. We continue on page 151. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, let us meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We continue on page 152. When cherished ties are broken and the chain of love is shattered, only trust and the strength of faith can lighten the heaviness of the heart. At times, the pain of separation seems more than we can bear, but love and understanding can help us pass through the darkness toward the light. Out of affliction, the psalmist learned the law of God, and in truth, grief is a great teacher when it sends us back to serve and bless the living. We learn how to counsel and comfort those who, like ourselves, are bowed with sorrow. We learn when to keep silence in their presence, and when a word will assure them of our love and concern. Thus, even when they're gone, the departed are with us, moving us to live, as in their higher moments they themselves wished to live. We remember them now. They live in our hearts. They are an abiding blessing. However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. We now recall the loved ones whom death has taken from us. We remember those who died at this season in years past, and we take them into our hearts with our own. Those for whom we're observing Yortzites this past week include Eugene Morris Abramson, Steve Branis, Louis Feinberg, Isidore Goldman, Benny Goldstein, Irene Hermer, Morris Hirsch, Mrs. Saul Kaplan, Rabbi David Lefkowitz Jr., Doris Katz Meltzer, Helen S. Wilhelm, Cheryl S. Morris, and Max Zell. In this moment of memory, our griefs and sympathies are mingled. Loving God, we rise as together we praise your name. The Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 154. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, divrach hiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayachon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv, v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam u'la'amei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudsha barichu, La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. You may be seated. I hope that you, like me, think about Israel every day. I hope that Israel is in your heart every day. But as we've talked about before, since growing up, and especially since I grew up in the north where the ground is very frozen and under this much snow this week, BiShvat is one of those times when I really loved thinking about Israel. We felt like we were living on Israel time for BiShvat because we couldn't plant trees. And I grew up imagining that Israel was the only place in the world where you could plant trees right now. And so BiShvat was about, little blue J&F boxes where you gathered your money together and you sent off we called it Keren Ami and Tzedakah money, so that you could plant trees in Israel because that's what you did. And you can only do it in Israel. And then I came here and found out that this is perfect tree planting weather and that we plant millions of trees, we meaning the Muslim family and Shreveport, and we get to plant millions of trees. Literally millions of trees right now are being planted, except in Israel, they're not necessarily planting trees. This year is what's called a Shemitah year. Every 7 years, even the trees and even the land has to take a break. Because as I said before, you try surviving without a break. And the wonderful thing is, you can still be yourself, take a break, and then you get to be yourself, but even better after a break, the new and improved you. So especially because my heart is always in Israel, and especially on BiShvat, and this was a tradition I was hoping we would start some more. I realized that even our kids are not as familiar with Hatikva as they need to be. Last week we talked about Sephardic Judaism. The Sephardic pronunciation in Israel is the same pronunciation we use most of the time here. So, for example, the Ashkenazic pronunciation, which originated in Germany, would say Yisgadal v'Yiskadash Shemei Rabbah. How many people have ever heard that before? Don't raise hands because that's not good. I'm not allowed to let you raise hands. So, but the Sephardic pronunciation is Yitgadal v'Yitkadash. So we do the Sephardic pronunciations for most things. But I hate to tell you, there's an awful lot of things that we do in what we call Ashkephardic. Ashkephardic is when you mix the Ashkenazic and the Sephardic. And so it cracks me up that we do this. I'm kind of proud of that fact, that we're trying to be modern Israeli-ish, and yet we can't let go of those roots. So a lot of people say, Baruch atah Adonai, right? Am I right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And we say, Lehahadlik ner, for example, because that's the Ashkenazic pronunciation. Ashkenazic pronunciation, the accent's going to be at the beginning of the word. And the Sephardic pronunciation is going to be lehadlik ner. Which one do you want to do? I don't know. I like keeping the traditions because my roots stay strong even though my branches are spreading out. So when we say Hatikva, where's your accent? At the beginning of the word or the end of the word? Hatikva. Yeah. It's at the beginning. So even as we're being modern and Israeli, we're being Ashkephardic about things. And that's just when I teach my Hebrew class, the first lesson I always say, one of the things I want you to do is stand in front of the mirror every day and say, yes, I am from Shreveport. Because there's nothing you're going to be able to do to change your accent from sounding like wherever you were born. And it's kind of silly to try to pretend to be something other than what you are. And that's what we are. I am proud to be Ashkefardic, and I'm okay with this. But I invite you to please, I'll tell you what if we bless the bread first and then sing our closing Hatikva, and that way we can go from standing to standing and not stand and sit all the time. So let me see, who have we got? I'm going to do over here for a row of February people. We've got anniversary and bless and birthday this month, so I would like you to please help us with blessing the bread. Tell us what melody you want to start with. Go. Motzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. I thought you were sitting closer because we have like husband and wife with birthdays in February. I was going to pick on you. We got 3 people. So you get it next, and then you can share it with whomever you want. Because lots of February people. And I love that you come to B'nai Zion to celebrate birthdays here. I mean, I just think that's wonderful. So now I invite you to please rise. We ran out of sheets for everybody, so you may have to share. Hatikva, we've got some extras if you need. Who needs? Anybody need the words? We have a flag here. And you have even a translation, but we sing. Kol balev pnima, nefesh Yehudi homiya, ulfate mizrach kadima, ayin letzion Sophia, od lo Hatikva bat shnot alpayim להיות עם חופשי בארצנו בארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו בארץ ציון וירושלים. 2,000 years of hope, many more than 2,000 years. I am grateful to be here with you, celebrating birthdays, to BiShvat, Shabbat. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you. May God protect you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face be lifted up to you. May God grant you peace. Shabbat shalom.